Okay, so should I start?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Let me introduce you first. We have a we are very lucky today to have an excellent and speaker, an excellent consultant and clinician pathologist. He's you may say a lot, many in one, and he's Dr. Farhan Ahmed. He's a consultant chemical pathologist at the Milton Keynes Hospital, which is a hospital of Oxford University. And I have met him a lot, many times, and in Pakistan and in UK. And he has a lot, vast experience of um, clinical sciences, diagnostic sciences, and research. Um, Over to you, Dr. Farhan, please.
Thank you, Amir, for such a kind introduction, and thank you for giving me opportunity to speak to this audience. So I guess they're all medical students, or
Yes, they are all medical, but some there may be some pharmacy students, or they are related to health professions.
okay, sure. So so first of all, so this is summertime here, so I'm having hay fever. So if I sneeze during the uh, presentation, so please forgive me. So let me introduce myself. So as Amir said, so I'm a consultant in chemical pathology and metabolic medicine in Milton Keynes Hospital and Oxford University Hospital, and I'm also a senior clinical lecturer in clinical biochemistry in University of Oxford. So my job has two parts. One is chemical pathology and the other is metabolic medicine. So chemical pathology is very similar as in Pakistan. So metabolic medicine is a bit more clinical. So what we trained in cardiovascular risk or lipid clinic, metabolic bone disorders, obesity and nutrition, diabetes, and inborn error of metabolism. So we have to do these clinics as well. Uh, so so probably I will talk for about 15-20 minutes, and then I will be happy to take some questions. Okay. So if I just move on. Okay, so research for medical students or basically in medical career. So I'm not going to talk about a laundry list, what's the benefit of medical research, because I'm sure you all know about it, but just a few points. So medical research is important for medical students and any doctor, either junior or senior, because it's help in advancing scientific knowledge, improving patient care, and the most important thing is enhancing critical thinking and problem solving skills. So I think that's the most important thing, because you analyze things very critically, and of course it's foster a culture of inquiry and curiosity, and exposing students to scientific methods. So so these scientific methods are part of every single exam. So either you are a medical student or medical school exam, or you are doing your postgraduate exam like MRCP or FRC path, or either you are using doing some sort of licensing exam like CLAB or USMLE. So those statistics and research based questions are always there. uh, and it also opens a door to career opportunities. So of course, if you have done some research, it will benefit you later in your career. The other important part is networking. So you see a lots of different people and researchers and benefit from their experience, and of course personal and professional development and contributing to evidence-based medicine. So what I will probably do in my talk is just to tell you about some personal experience of research and some things which are usually done in the UK, especially in medical schools. So so by the way, I was graduated in from Karachi a long time ago. So I don't know, the system probably might have been changed since I graduated. So a bit of personal experience. So so the proper full-fledged research in the UK is usually for 3 years. So when you are a part of the training, say for example, if you're doing your MRCP or FCPS, for example, as in Pakistan, so you or when you are like doing a training in any specialty like metabolic medicine or gastroenterology or surgery, then you take about 3 years out for research and training, and where you do a full-time research. Uh, so I do understand for medical students, it is probably not possible to take 3 years out and do the research. So probably the best to do some small projects, which may be more practical and enhance your experience. So when I was a trainee in Nottingham University Hospital and doing my chemical pathology and metabolic medicine, so as a part of the exit exam, which is FRC path, we have to do some research project. And my research project was to develop genetic testing for lactose intolerance. So I thought probably I will finish that project in about 6 months time, but due to various reasons it took me more than 6 months. Actually it took me about 2 years to finish that project, due to various reasons, because I was involved in other part of the training, doing clinics, etc., etc. So the first important thing is just to um, have some realistic approach. How long will it take to finish your research project? Because otherwise you will be doing it forever. So the time is very, very important. So have some realistic time scale and choose a research project which you can finish in time. Say for example, if you're in medical school for 2 3 4 years, so you, and of course you will be revolving or rotating around different departments, so you do need to select a project which you can finish on time. So in the UK, normally, as I mentioned, you do full-fledged research, which is like a PhD or MD during your training or your specialist training. Like say, for example, if you're doing gastroenterology or metabolic medicine or anything, so you take a time out from your training 2 or 3 years, and then you finish your research. So I did mention about those small projects. So probably those small projects are more suited to medical students and doctors in trainees, especially junior doctors. So they can be anything, like they can be quality improvement project
in progress.
So they can be
So they
um, so they can be quality improvement project, they can be service improvement project, and I will talk a little bit about quality and service improvement project in the next few slides. It can be educational material, and that's probably the easiest thing. Say, for example, you can just make some pamphlet for the patient, like patient information leaflet if they are coming for, like, for anything actually, gallbladder operation or cholecystectomy, or like a high cholesterol or osteoporosis. So they always like some patient information leaflet, and that's the easy thing. And you can also do a clinical audits, and that is very important. So I'll talk about clinical audits in my next few slides. Journal club is another thing. So you can create a journal club and just discuss recent or latest research. So medical blog and vlog. So now many students and even junior and senior doctors are involved in vlog and blogs. So that's another thing. But remember, you do need to present hard facts rather than your own desires and opinions. And community health projects is also another thing. For example, so depend from region to region. For example, in the UK, so I ask medical students to so they can like uh, set a camp where they can check the blood pressure, they can check the blood glucose levels. So it's a kind of a screening project, and it looks good on their CV as well. And if you have a chance, you can involve in drug trials or clinical trials. So in the UK, of course, so almost every hospital or every department is involved in drug trials or clinical trials. I think Pakistan is slightly different, but you should look for the opportunity to involve in those trials, which probably will give you some insight about the research methods and other things. So clinical audit, it is very important. So it is expected from every doctor in the UK, either junior or senior, to do at least one clinical audit per year. It's not mandatory, but it's a part of the appraisal. So when we have our annual appraisal, we are asked whether you have done any clinical audit or not. So as you know, so it's a quality improvement process to assess and improve the quality of patient care, and to review the clinical practice, procedure, and outcome against some predetermined criteria or standards, to identify areas for improvement, and to ensure that the health care services are delivered effectively, efficiently, and in line with the best practice. So it's always, you should always strive to improve your clinical practice against the set criteria. So I wanted to meet Natasha, Maxim, Arsha, and Stephen, not in person. And so they were my medical students. So I also supervise medical students during their training in the hospital. So these are the few examples of very keen or enthusiastic medical students. So when they started rotation with me, so they made it clear from the day one, like they want to involve in any kind of audit or projects or publication. And of course, if the students are interested, then the supervisor also uh, help them. So this is just a recent example. So Natasha, one of my medical students, so she's a third year medical student. So as soon as she started, she expressed her interest, and she said she wanted to do some kind of project. So I said, well, I've got some projects. So here in lipid clinic, so I've been doing genetic testing for familial hypercholesterolemia for over 2 to 3 years, and I really wanted to do an audit, but of course, due to busy job, I did not have a time. So once she expressed the interest, so I asked her if she's willing to do this audit. So what we did, so the first thing I asked her or told her, so you should finish the audit in time, because these medical students come to the department for about like 6 to 8 weeks. So if they move on to the other department, then it would be difficult to come back and finish the project or like any kind of audit. So I said, we need to find something which you can finish in 6 to 8 weeks time. So we choose this audit for a familial hypercholesterolemia and genetic testing. So the background was because the genetic testing is quite expensive and labor intensive, and so we want to make sure whether we are requesting to the right a group of people, and what is our hit rate. So we looked at the first 100 patient in the clinic, so first 100 consecutive patient in the clinic, and look at their criteria, and then look at what the hit rate of the positive genetic testing. And I was surprised to see the hit rate was only 15% in my clinic, and the national average is about 20 to 25%. So of course we were not doing something right. So I and medical student presented that audit to the regional lipid clinic, and then we decided to just change some of the criteria, when and how to request those genetic testing. So hopefully we will implement those changes, and then re-audit, and just to make sure to see whether our clinical practice has improved or not. So these students finish this audit in about like 4 weeks time. So it is always very important you choose an audit or topic which you can finish on time. So it was quite straightforward, quite easy audit, but it should affect our clinical practice. So the next thing is posture presentation. So my other student in the past, his name was Maxim Barnett. He was also very enthusiastic medical student. So from the day one, he said he wanted to make a career in chemical pathology and metabolic medicine. So and then what happened? So one opportunity arrived. So Royal College of Pathologists contacted me, and then they asked me to set up a stall for the school students, because they were doing this National Pathology Week. So at the Royal College of Pathology in London. So I asked Maxim whether he want to join me in the Royal College, and he said yes, of course. And then I spoke to Royal College and then say, well, the student wants, so I got a medical student and he wanted to just present a poster just to attract the school students towards chemical pathology, and they were very happy. So you can see these posters are very, very straightforward, and I guess Maxim probably spent only few hours to make those posters. Of course, I helped him, and then on his CV or on his career, now he can just say he has presented two posters at the Royal College of Pathologists during National Pathology Week, and it's a big thing. So poster presentation is not very laborious. So if you plan well, and so you can present many posters. And the other thing is the audit which I just mentioned about familial hypercholesterolemia audit. So I asked medical student to make a poster, and we should be presenting this in some of the conference like Heart UK, for example. Okay, so publishing experience. So it is also very important and rewarding. And so publishing can be quite difficult and challenging. So in my opinion, so what I ask medical students when they come to me, so I say, well, why don't we start with the easy stuff? So the easiest way to get some publishing experience is to write a letter to editor, or just write in some sort of bulletins. For example, the bulletin of the Royal College of Pathologists, they are very happy to take articles from students. And of course, because I have a personal relationship in the Royal College of Pathology, so that also helps. Say for example, Maxime again. so so he said now he wanted to write something for the for some for some journal. So I encourage him to select a topic, and which is a kind of unique and publishable. So he choose a very simple topic. So as you can see, it's a from medical student to junior doctor, a career towards chemical pathology. So what he expressed his own experience and how he got interested in chemical pathology, and what he learned during his rotation in chemical pathology, and then submit to the Royal College of Pathologists, and they happily published that article. The other student is Asha, and during her rotation, we discussed about different topics for publication, and we choose this topic, make a chemical pathology accessible in medical students, because we found the chemical pathology curriculum is not very well presented or represented in medical school curriculum. So she wrote her own experience and how to improve this, and it got published as well. And then they did not stop. So then Asha and Maxim asked me, they wanted to write something in the peer-reviewed journals. So I said, well, then the other easiest thing to publish is case reports. So fortunately, in my clinic, I do see lots of interesting cases. And at that time, I just saw this patient who was diagnosed with hyperparathyroid jaw tumor syndrome, which is a very rare case. And of course, we got the diagnosis by doing the genetic testing. So I asked both Maxim and Asha, why don't you write it up? And then they, of course, contacted the patient, and then they went through the history and thing, and then they wrote it up, and fortunately, it got published in one of the peer-reviewed articles. So the other important thing is quality and service improvement project. So as you're a medical student and as a part of the junior doctor, you always look for the opportunity to take on projects which helps in quality or service improvement. You always do this kind of project without. So when I was a trainee and I went to some career fair where they offer to the career advice and to review the CV, etc. So the consultant at that time looked at my CV. So during my training, I have done a lot of quality and service improvement project, but none of them was published. So he actually suggested me you should stop doing any more project and just publish them whatever you have done, because that will give you more weight towards your CV and help you when you apply for the consultant jobs. So I follow his advice. So I found a partner. His name was Stephen, and he was also very interested in publishing. And we just so let me just tell you about this the first project, which is CSF 𝐰𝐞𝐬𝐞𝐚𝐫, correlation with brain imaging and its usefulness as an out of hour test. So as a chemical pathologist, we been doing this CSF 𝐰𝐞𝐬𝐞𝐚 in biochemistry lab. And what happened, so some of the requests were made uh, like out of hours, like at midnight, when we have a very low level of staff. And their argument was, from the medical ward, their argument was, if you do CSF 𝐰𝐞𝐬𝐞𝐚 at that time, we will so this will help in discharging the patient. So we said, well, so we should audit this and then make a project. So we look at the correlation between the CSF 𝐰𝐞𝐬𝐞𝐚 positive test and the level of discharge of the patient. So we found those patients actually are not being discharged if we so even if we offer CSF 𝐰𝐞𝐬𝐞𝐚 out of hours. And we also found the correlation between high resolution CT scan and CSF 𝐰𝐞𝐬𝐞𝐚 is very, very good actually. And CSF 𝐰𝐞𝐬𝐞𝐚 is only a screening test, so you should so we should not make a diagnosis of a subarachnoid hemorrhage on the basis of CSF 𝐰𝐞𝐬𝐞𝐚. So anyway, so there were lots of learning thing. And so we did this quality improvement project. And after that, of course, it changed our practice as well. The other project which I mentioned here was chylothorax and diagnosis, and can the clinical chemistry lab do more. So when I was in Nottingham as a trainee, so that was a big tertiary center. So we received lots of requests for for chylothorax. So they send the pleural fluid to find out if it's a chyle or not. So there we have a facility to do electrophoresis. So what we did, and we ran the lipoprotein electrophoresis there, and find out whether the visual inspection of chyle is better than doing electrophoresis. And we find the electrophoresis is more reliable in diagnosis chylothorax, for example. So problems after you submit article to medical journals. So the first problem is rejection. So rejection is fairly common. So when I was working as a trainee, so one of my professor who was very well known, so he said, don't get disappointed by rejection. And he said when he was a medical student and when he was trainee, he got hundreds of rejection, but he said just don't stop. You just, so if the article is rejected, then you submit to another journal until it get published. So don't get disappointed. You need to be bit persevere, and it will get finally published. And revision requests. So some of the reviewers can be very, I would say, very typical. And then whatever you like, so whatever you write, they don't like it. So they always ask you to review again and again and again. But I think it's a good learning process. So you should not be afraid of doing this. And delays in the review process. So of course, everyone is busy here. Some of the reviewers are very, very busy. It might take up to months and months when they reply you back. So just be persistent. Publication fees. So some journals do have a publication fee. So if you pay them, they will publish your article. I don't like this idea, but that's an option. Say for example, if you really want to keen on publication, you can pay the journal and they will publish. But, and I can tell you one thing, so for developing country like Pakistan, so their fee is quite minimal. So if you are submitting your article from Pakistan, the chances you will get your article will get published with a minimal amount of fees would be very, very high. Conflict with reviewers. So the another point is, if the reviewers don't like you due to any reason, for example, professional rivalry, then they just try to obstruct. Then so the best way is probably just try to find the neutral reviewers. So they can give you a fair chance or do a fair reviews. Patient consent, especially in case report and case series, so that can be a problematic, because some patient don't understand what the importance of medical research, etc. So sometimes you really need to sit down with them and explain, and you just tell them, it would be anonymous, your name will not be there. So, and if you just explain them, then they do listen to you, and then they sign the consent form. So I will stop here, and I'm happy to take any questions. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Farhan. Excellent talk and very relevant and very contextual to the medical students. Your examples of medical students working in research and doing research is encouraging for our students. And I think they will be now more motivated to do some small projects of research and audit and publications. And yes, any question, please? You can raise your hand or you can write in your chat box. Any option you want. We will wait for a few minutes.
So you're absolutely right, Ahmed. So what I have observed here, so medical curriculum is quite intensive. So sometimes they don't have a chance or the time actually to do a long research. So that's what I just told them. I said, just do a small project so you can finish on time and move on, and at least try to get a poster out of it, if not publication. So from the outset, I just tell them, so the aim would be to have some sort of poster or publication if possible. And of course, sometimes it just you can get the poster publication, but sometimes you can't because of various reasons. But the main thing is time. So you plan your audit or your project so you can finish this on time.
Yes, this is very good. Before, yes, Zoom user, I can't see your name. Whoever is raised hand, you can ask.
Yes, sir. Yes.
What's your
Yes,
name,
sir.
beta? Please first tell your name.
Nimrafrid, sir.
Nimrafrid from fourth year. Yes, I know you are
Yes, sir.
What is your question?
So I just want to know that most, like he said, most of the time your article is just rejected. It's fairly common. So what are the reasons that your article is just rejected?
Yes, sir. Now you can lower your hand, please.
Okay. So there can be various reasons. So if you submit your article to a very high impact journal, for example, New England Journal of Medicine or Lancet or JAMA, for example, so they only take less than 1% of their submission. So the chances, so because their standard is such high, so the chances you will get rejected is very, very high. So I think if you are in this the initial state of your career, so probably choose a journal which can take slightly, which just take like any kind of research or any kind of article or publication. And having said that, there are few journals who actually have a student section. So BMJ students, so they actually encourage students to submit their articles, and especially from the developing countries. So say, for example, if you submit to BMJ students or BMJ case report, and if you're from Pakistan, the chances they will take or accept your article would be very, very high.
And you have if you have a published article in BMJ, you will get a job anywhere in UK. I think Farhan, it's
okay, sir.
This is a very nice piece of advice, and I think it will be very useful for students. Uzair, please.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Walaikum salam. Uzair.
Sir, I just want to thank for ending such a nice session. And especially, I would like to thank our Professor Farhan for such nice words and wonderful guidance across the whole process, which we didn't have even any idea about. And it really was great, and I hope it will really prove beneficial for us all. Once again, thanks to you, Worthy you, our wonderful Professor Brigadier 𝐸𝐴𝐻𝐻𝐻, the MRC, and the great Dr. Farhan. Thanks all.
Thank you. Let me take 1 minute to introduce Uzair to you exactly. Uzair is the president of our literary society, and he has recently won the national prize for best debate. And his speech was then he was invited in our parliament, and he delivered that speech in the parliament also. So he's our stalwart, really. Furqan, what you say, please? Furqan?
Thank you so much,
have a
sir, for
question.
nice words. Thank you so much for the nice words, sir.
Furqan, ji.
First of all, thank you to Zed for the appreciation. Secondly, I have a question for Dr. Farhan.
Ji, please.
He said that the letter editor is a good person to study research. But I want to ask, is there any significance?
Furqan, we can't hear you. You write in the chat box. Before starting my presentation, I will take 2 minutes to give you a background of this session, which I postponed it till now. We have created a society, a club by the name of Mohyuddin Research Club in Mohyuddin Medical College. And Furqan Shahid is the president of this club. He is from final year, and he has worked a lot. He's a very hardworking boy, and mashallah, he has created a lot of activities, and very soon, inshallah, we will start our own medical student journal. And secondly, we are also planning to hold a first research conference in September. And if you are in Pakistan, we will like to invite you also in that. And Mirpur is a little UK, and
Yes.
you will find a lot of patients also from Mirpur in your clinics, because my kids in Pakistan, UK, they very well are familiar with Mirpur. What is the significant or letter to editor? Yes, Furqan, I think it is a good thing to write. Farhan, if you want to add something.
Yeah, so of course, if you read some article of interest, and if you want to add anything, or if you want to, especially if you're not agree on something, you can just write your opinion to editor, and then say, well, that should be that way, and I disagree, or whatever. But it has to have some sort of clinical kind of justification or some evidence. So you can't just really give your personal opinion because you don't like the idea. So if your idea is good, evidence based, and have some logic, you write to the editor about certain articles or certain publication, and if they fulfill their criteria, uh, they do get published, and that's probably one of the easy thing to get published. So as I said, so letter to to editor, and the other thing is publishing in the bulletins. For example, Royal College of Pathologists bulletin, Royal College of Physician bulletin, and I'm sure there would be a bulletin in some other organization like CPS, and I don't know about other organizations. So that's probably the easiest way to start publishing experience. So is there any other questions?
I think now I should go to the next presentation, and
Okay.
I will start with the recitation of a verse, a few verses. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Qul huwallahu ahad. Allahu samad. Lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Dear students, Dr. Farhan, Dr. Professor Ayaz, and some other, if our other faculty members present here, thank you very much for joining us. And I've chosen this topic because our students are now going to in the field of research. So from the very beginning, they should learn what are the ethical practices and what is the meaning of integrity in medical research. So there are different ethics. These terminologies are used in various contexts. First is the medical ethics, which is related to medical practice. We are not talking about this today. Then there are researcher ethics, which is related to medical research, and we will be talking about this particular aspect. Third is another ethics, which is publication ethics. And there is a committee, international committee, which is called Committee of Publication Ethics. They issue guidelines about the research publication. In a future session we will talk about this. I've heard some intellectual saying that I even learned wisdom from the stupid people. I repeat, some scholar said, I have learned wisdom from stupid people. So today I'm going to give you some negative examples. I'm sorry for being negative, a little bit negative today. I will give you examples of the negative things, and then we will build our talk, what not to do in medical research. We will talk about extremes of unethical practice. It is Tuskegee syphilis study. Tuskegee is a very interesting story. Another story which is also very interesting is total lack of research integrity, and that is thalidomide tragedy. Third thing, we will talk about dual use research of concern, the anthrax story. So I'll build my talk mainly on these three stories. Tuskegee syphilis study. This was carried out in the United States in Alabama from 1932 to 1972. This is the worst human research project. It is a highly unethical syphilis experiment was conducted by the U.S. Public Health Service and the Tuskegee Institute in Alabama, USA. You can see some pictures of black and white era in this slide also. About 399 poor black farmers in Macon County, Alabama, US were denied treatment for syphilis with absolutely no, they were not told anything about the study. They were said we are studying some bad blood disease, and they were usually poor and were used as test subjects, offered free meals, healthcare, and burial stipends. What was the burial stipend? $50. A cohort of government officials went to extreme lengths to ensure that they received no therapy from any source. And what was the final thing? What was the outcome? That was autopsy. Without giving any treatment, they would follow them, the first primary, secondary, tertiary stages of syphilis, and then they would document their findings on autopsy. In 1972, an official of the same department disclosed this study, and in 1997, President of United States tendered an apology. I'll now show you the recording of this, what actually happened. I hope you can listen it.
Presidential apology for the study at Tuskegee. On May 16, 1997, in the East Room of the White House, President Bill Clinton issued a formal apology for the Tuskegee study of untreated syphilis in the Negro male, the longest non-therapeutic experiment on human beings in the history of medicine and public health. That study, conducted under the auspices of the U.S. Public Health Service, PHS, at Tuskegee Institute, now Tuskegee University, in Tuskegee, Alabama, was originally projected to last 6 months but spanned 40 years, from 1932 to 1972. The purpose of the study was to determine the effect of untreated syphilis in Black men. The men in the study were never told that they had syphilis, a sexually transmitted disease. Instead, government doctors told the men they had bad blood, a term that was commonly used to describe a wide range of unspecified maladies. The study included 600 Black men, 399 with syphilis, and a control group of 201 who did not have the disease. The men in the study were the sons and grandsons of slaves. Most had never been seen by a doctor. When announcements were made in churches and in the cotton fields about a way to receive free medical care, the men showed up in droves, unaware of the high price that would be paid over the next 4 decades. In the mid-1940s, when penicillin became the standard cure for syphilis, the Tuskegee subjects were not given the drug. Even as some men went blind and insane from advanced, tertiary, syphilis, the government doctors withheld treatment, remaining committed to observing their subjects through to the study's predetermined endpoint, autopsy. To ensure that the families would agree to this final procedure, the government offered them burial insurance, at most $50, to cover the cost of a casket and grave.
So you can see how bad it was, but as a great nation, United States, they tender an apology, nothing short of the President of the United States. I think what they did was more of an ignorance, total ignorance, and lack of the human values. So what we learned from this study, this bad study, informed consent is a must for study. Patient safety is of utmost importance. And then bias in subject selection is unwanted. So instead of selecting your subjects based on the merit, you select poor patients, giving them some financial assistance or just food is a bad thing. So that led to the basic ethical considerations and basic ethical principles. And first was the respect for persons. Incorporates at least 2 ethical convictions. Individuals should be treated as an autonomous agent. That means every single subject or every single person has the right to choose whether he or she should be enrolled in the study or not as a group, not as a family. Persons with diminished autonomy are entitled to protection. That means any person who has a mental problem or a child or anything, that he's or she is also entitled to protection provided by his or her near one. Beneficence, that means maximum possible benefits and minimize possible harm. The study which you have planned should be beneficial to the person and should have minimum possible harm. Non-maleficence. This is the basic principle of patient safety, that first do no harm. So this is a very important component of any study. And then justice, fairness in distribution. That means everyone who is included in the study should have fairness from all the sections of society, upper, lower, middle, and the selection should not be just based on the economy or race. Then it led to the Nuremberg Code. That means the code included, it is a very detailed code, but I'm just showing some extract. The consent is a voluntary thing. That subject should be free to give the consent or not. The experiment should yield fruitful result. Anticipated results will justify the experiment. Avoid all unnecessary physical and mental sufferings. Proper preparation and adequate facilities. A liberty to bring the experiment to an end. If a subject during the study wants to quit, he or she should have the liberty to do this. The scientist in charge should also have the liberty to terminate the experiment. So that lead to some very important milestones. First was the Declaration of Helsinki. You know, Helsinki is a city in Finland. Helsinki Declaration is very, very important. Whenever we want to talk about research as ethics, we have to refer to these Helsinki Declarations, and that establishes the prior review of protocols by ethical committee. If you are just about to set an ethical committee or institution review board in your institute, you have to resort to these Helsinki Declarations. Independence of the researchers, independence of the researcher. The Belmont report that also set the standard for the institutional review boards, and we have to consult that if you want to establish IRBs in your institute. Then another term was coined, and that is good clinical practice, GCP. GCP is a process that incorporates established ethical and scientific quality standards for clinical research involving the participation of human subjects. Whenever human subjects are involved in a study, especially in those studies which are interventional, in which you have to give some drug or you have to do some intervention here, then you have to consider the design, conduct, recording, and reporting of the study. Why do we need GCP, good clinical practice? To maintain the standard of excellence, to protect the rights, safety, and welfare of humans participating in research, to assure the quality, reliability, and integrity of data collected. How are patients' rights protected? Scientific review, institutional review boards, informed consent. So all these measures are basically carried out to protect the rights of the patients or rights of the subjects. Then another very important thing is data safety monitoring boards. We will talk about it in after a few slides. So now all of you who are involved in some study or who are going to be involved in some study in future, inshallah, there are main 5 tenets of informed consent, 5 pillars of informed consent. Information disclosure. You must give each and every bit of information to the subject you are going to enroll in your study, and in the language which he or she understands. So understanding is very important. That if you talk about medical terms and if you talk in the language which the subject does not understand, then it is useless. And competence, that the researcher should be competent to take the consent, and he or she should be well versed with the procedure of consenting. Volunteerness, the subjects should have total liberty, as I told earlier, and it should be on voluntary basis, and it should not be on any force or any compulsion or any attraction which should bring the subject for the study. And decision making should be with the subject throughout the study, not only initially but till end. It should be with the subjects. Now I told you that the things do not stop after you have taken the consent, and this research ethics or research ethical board or IRB also establishes a board of data safety monitoring. That means you may select 2-3 experts, and they should periodically monitor the data generated by the study. I give you so this is ethical monitoring of the data generated in an ongoing research project. Any untoward outcome may lead to abolishing. So if they find that the results are not good or results have some ethical issues, then the study can be stopped. I will give you a very nice example of this after one slide. So informed consent, when should we take the consent? Prior to conducting. It is not right thing to take the consent right in once you have started the study. The consent should be taken prior to the conducting any study related test procedures, treatments, or questionnaires. Using the current ERC approved consent form, which is you can find from the Helsinki Declaration. Reconsent is required if there is a new information that would affect the subject's willingness to continue participation or as directed by the IRB. How to take the informed consent? Identify potential study participants based on study criteria. Describe the study verbally as outlined in the approved consent using non-technical language. An interpreter should be involved if necessary. Invite questions and ensure all are answered satisfactorily. Allow time to review the consent alone or with physician, family, or friends. So, assess understanding of the major element of the consent. Once you have taken the consent, then you should ask questions to the subject to know that he or she has understood the study or not. Now, we have to be honest in taking this consent. If there is voluntarily agreement to participate, obtain signature, initials were indicated and date from the subject. Consenter must also sign and date. Provide a copy of the consent form to the study subject. Complete the consent process, documentation form, and file. So consent is a process. You remember this thing. Consent is a process. It is not just a form. It may continue throughout the study. Now coming to the DSMB's data safety monitoring boards, I give you an example of diabetes complication control trial, DCCT. Once again, this trial was conducted in the United States. And by the way, this is a positive example. This positive example how good things were done. Remember, DCCT is a landmark study started in 1990s. Dr. Farhan, who is a clinician, will bear me out that DCCT changed the practice of diabetes mellitus, especially in type 1 diabetics. It was a multi-billion-dollar study involving large number of type 1 diabetics. Halfway through the study, listen very carefully what actually happened. Halfway through the study, the statisticians announced that the benefit of intervention is so prominent that it is unethical to keep the control group devoid of its benefits. So the study was stopped and result published. If you not understood this, I'll repeat it. That study, for example, the study was planned for 3 years. I do not remember exactly how much years it was planned, but let's say it was planned for 3 years. After 1.5 years, the statisticians who were monitoring the data very closely, they saw that the difference between the intervention group and the control group is so marked. That means there were 2 outcomes in this study. One was retinopathy, the other was nephropathy. They found that in the intervention group, the retinopathy and nephropathy is so less as compared to the control group that it is now unethical to not to provide this intervention to the control group. So the study was closed. The data was sufficient to prove the goodness of the intervention, and the study was published. So remember this thing, that one has to keep monitoring the data once study has started. So if you have any questions until now, we have talked about mainly the consent and the data monitoring. So you can raise your hand and ask me if you have any question for next 10-15 seconds before we go on to the next topic. This is research integrity. Okay. So we go on now to the research integrity. And once again, a negative example which will give you an idea of the importance of the integrity or the good thing. The thalidomide tragedy, false claims about new drugs. Thalidomide first entered the German market in 1957 as an over-the-counter remedy for insomnia. It was over-the-counter remedy. That means you didn't need a prescription to get this medicine, thalidomide. completely safe for everything, including mother and child, even during pregnancy. This was their claim. The manufacturer claimed that this drug is very safe for the mother, for the child, even in pregnancy. And they also claimed that it also alleviated morning sickness, which the pregnant ladies get during first trimester. But what actually happened? You can see these children, they are having the malformed arm, malformed hands, and this is the tragedy. In the few short years that thalidomide was available, it is estimated that over 10,000 babies were affected by the drug worldwide. Around half died within months of being born, and the thalidomide babies who survived live with the effects of the drug along with their families. So I will now show you a small video about the thalidomide, and you will now fully understand what actually happened.
When I was born at home, delivered by a midwife who was shocked, to say the least. I was given to my dad. Midwife explained no arms, no legs. I think he was quite gutted, obviously.
I was born with heart deformities, which are quite common to people with thalidomide disability. My early days were spent in an oxygen tent. I was very small and obviously was fighting for those very early days.
Damage varied from day to day. So if the mother took the drug on around day 20, you'd be getting central brain damage. And 21, it would be the eyes, and 22 to 3, it would be the ears and the hearing and the face. And day 24, it would be the upper limb damage. So a tablet on day 24 was capable of removing a complete pair of arms. And over the next 4 days, corresponding patterns of leg damage.
I said, "Go and get my baby. I want to see her." And she brought my baby, and I unwrapped her and poured down with tears because I could see all her limbs were affected.
My mum went through pain. If she didn't suffer enough guilt herself, other people helped her to feel guilty. She would hear people talking behind her back that, oh, it's one of those thalidomide children. The mother shouldn't have taken a tablet, it's all her fault.
For the families, it was isolation, it was alienation, it was fear of the future, and it was a terrible sense of guilt. Now, why did I take that? I only had morning sickness. Why did I take that pill?
In the 60s, disabled people were largely hidden from society. You know, we were hidden away in institutions and special schools, and, you know, you didn't really see disabled people. And there's, I would say there's still a lot of shame around disability as well, and embarrassment.
Well, I never thought in my life that people stare, but I'm used to it. I can cope with kids coming up and asking me questions. It does annoy me when the mothers go, "Shut up," or go to class the hand over the mouth, or older people stare. And you think that they wouldn't, because being older, that they know through the.
So, so that was thalidomide, and what actually happened that the company who manufactured this medicine, they gave false information. Actually, either they didn't did the enough experiments, or they concealed the facts, and the drug was marketed intensively, and you can see the effects if you have seen the video, and if you couldn't see it, you might have heard some of the expressions of the sufferers. So this is there was a big lesson in the study also, and that led to the definition of research integrity. So it uses the use of honest and verifiable methods in proposing, performing, and evaluating research, reporting research results with particular attention to adherence to rules, regulations, and guidelines, following commonly accepted professional codes or norms. Shared values in scientific research. Now we have to be very honest, conveying information truthfully and honoring commitments, accuracy, report findings precisely and take care to avoid errors, efficiently use resources wisely and avoid waste, objectively let the facts speak for themselves and avoid improper bias. And research misconducts includes fabrication. Now, you will be, inshallah, doing research in your future. Please listen carefully. Don't do fabrication. The other word for this is cooking up the data. Never cook up your data. Making up data or results and recording or reporting them is bad. Falsification, manipulating research materials, equipment, or process, or changing or omitting data, or resulting such that research is not accurately represented in the research record. Plagiarism, appropriating another person's idea, process, results, or words without giving appropriate credit. We'll be talking more about plagiarism in our session on publication ethics. Now, we must establish an excellent and ethical practice in our institute. Inspections and monitoring of research, develop educational programs that foster awareness of proper research conduct, establish optimal institution academic reward system for researchers, which should not be solely based on the impact factor of the publications. Third topic for today is DURC, dual research of concern. This is the much grave thing which we should also learn about. And this story starts with the anthrax. In 2004, some letters were sent to Washington which contain a powder, and that powder contained anthrax spores. So that led to the new term which is called bioterrorism. And ultimately, it was found that these anthrax spores were stolen by a scientist by the name of Bruce Evans, who was working on the vaccine for anthrax. The FBI claimed that the strains of the anthrax used in the latter attacks matched these anthrax in his laboratory. Dr. Evans committed suicide, and the story ended. Another example is Texas Tech University. Professor Thomas Butler, physician, a professor and leading researcher on plague, and the name of agent is Yersinia pestis, and apparent loss of 30 vials containing bacteria. There was loss of 30 vials containing bacteria, and he was charged with illegal transportation, fraud, and lying to federal officials, and ultimately he was jailed for 2 years and heavily fined. So dual use research of concern is a very vast field now, and it describes the research that is intended to provide a clear benefit, but which could easily be misapplied to do harm. Examples are mostly from microbiology, and gain of function mutation of viruses is another example that, for example, if influenza viruses of low virulence, the research is going on to increase its virulence and then misuse it. This is my last slide. That GCP or good clinical practice includes quality data plus ethics. Quality means data and reported results are credible and accurate, and ethics, results, rights, integrity, and confidentiality of trial subjects are protected. Thank you very much. Now, any questions from my side, from me, you are most welcome. You can raise your hand, or you can write your question in the chat box. Ji beta. Anyone? Have you understood the
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Nimra, please.
Sir, I have a question. That you said that in type 1 diabetes, like they're doing research for the control group and they're giving interventions to the group. So they just stopped the study because the other group is keeping from the interventions. So in these type of the studies, will it be going to publish or not?
Actually, I knew because it was a little bit complicated, and I repeated it, but that was not sufficient. So I once again tell you the whole thing. Actually, in DCCT, Diabetes Complication Control Trial, the hypothesis previous to DCCT, it was thought that diabetes mellitus will have complications regardless of the glycemic control. If you control glucose or not, the complications will occur. So this was the previously thought process. But the hypothesis in this study was that the efficient control or intensive control will decrease the prevalence of the complications, especially the microvascular complications, which is nephropathy and retinopathy. So in one group, they gave 4 insulin dosage in the 24 hours and 4 times monitoring also. In the control group, they give the traditional method of 2 insulin shots every day. So initially the study was planned, for example, for 3 years, and after 1.5 years, they said that in the intensive group, which was the new group, they found that the prevalence of retinopathy and nephropathy is so less as compared to the other group that it is now unethical not to give this intervention to the control group. So that's why the study was stopped, and it was published. It was a good thing. It was a positive example which I gave you. So this study is published in New England Journal of Medicine, which is the largest. Now remember, in due course of time, you will learn about medical journals also. NEJM, New England Journal of Medicine, is the largest medical journal in the world. It is published on every Thursday. And as Dr. Farhan was saying, its rejection rate is 99%. That if you send an article to NEJM, there are 99% chances that it will be rejected. So it has got the highest impact factor. And usually these large studies, they are published in NEJM. So in 1993, these studies were published in NEJM, and since then, the practice of medicine has changed, diabetes has changed. I hope I have answered the question.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Any other question? Furqan has done wonderful thing, and we must appreciate him. He works a lot, and he really always active to carry out some activities. Professor Ayaz, now I'll request Professor Ayaz to wind up the session and give some piece of advice to the students. Over to Professor Ayaz now.
Sir, am I audible?
Yes, Professor Ayaz, very clearly.
Yes, sir.
Sir, am I audible?
Ji, very clearly you are audible.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, audible. Professor Ayaz, you are audible.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. Okay, sir. Assalamu alaikum, all the participants, and thank you very much, Professor Amar Ijaz Saab and Dr. Farhan Ahmad, sir, for providing such presentations and sir, such knowledgeable presentations. And it was a really exciting session. And once these two a few things for me to say, but some points I want to mention here. First of all, I would like to people, especially the people who we doctors, we lack or we have least interest in research. And due to this reason, some of our colleagues, they do try to get the publications in some unethical manners. So to prime the students, to sensitize the students, inshallah, this session will be helpful. And in the future, we will also we will arrange different sessions that will try to inculcate basically the importance and the significance of the research in the students. First of all, I would like to say something about that. Why we do research? What is the reason behind? And why we want that the medical students they should participate, and as well as the medical facility should participate in the research. Basically, for me, if I say that why I like research, the only point, the most important point is that it gives me an intellectual joy. I feel very good, very high. When I think about a project, I think about the research and different things. And definitely there are the other reasons that the people, they do the research, like someone who wants to get the degree, like the MPhil degree or the PhD degree. There are some many peoples who have the respect in the society. And also sometimes the government orders to perform the research on a subject, like if there is a disease, epidemic disease which has occurred, that the government wants orders to perform the research. But the research is basically the activity that should be done more, and especially in our institute. So Dr. Farhan has said about that there are many characteristics of a project. Before you start a project, a person should critically think that about the project, and especially about its ethical values. For me, if the ethics, it's a mindset basically. And it starts when I am thinking about a project. Before presenting this project to any ethical committee, it starts in the mind. It's a mindset that when the project which I am thinking and the project which I will do the research, am I doing something right for the humanity? Is this project has been published before, and I'm just republishing the data and just wasting the resources and the funds? So it's a mindset. And I usually relate this mindset that a good researcher is like a dervish, a pious man, a dervish, a Sufi. Because the characteristics which are present in a Sufi or a dervish, those characteristics should also be present in a researcher. For example, a dervish is a truthful, a researcher should be a truthful. A dervish is a very sensitive about a thing that can be against the religion. So same is here. The researcher should be very sensitive about the research and about the things he's going to perform, that they may not harm the patients, or they may not harm the society, or they may not harm the principles or the values. And similarly, a dervish is a very good thinker. Same, the researcher should be a thinker. A dervish is a very patient person. A researcher should be a patient. It is not like this, that if you perform a research and you get the results in first going. It may take many experiments. It may take many data collections and evaluation and analysis and interpretation and detection of that data before having any result or having any useful thing. So there are things to say, but these were the few points, and inshallah, in the upcoming sessions or the research, we have 4 or 5 sessions. Furqan has organized these sessions for the students, and physically we will talk about the different things about the research and in more detail. And thank you very much, sir, Professor Dr. Aamer Ejaz and Dr. Farhad Saab, for having such a nice. Thank you, the students who have shown their interest, and they have attended this session. And Mr. Furqan, you have done a wonderful job. You're very hardworking, and mashallah, you and your team, they have done very good and very nice job. And thank you, sir. Jazakallah.
Thank you, Professor Riaz.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Now, once again, if you have any question, we have 1 minute for you. Although we have 5 minutes, because my plan was up to 5:30, but next 1-2 minutes, if you have any query, any comment, anything you want to add in these 2 topics, please let me know. Sir, I got a suggestion for Furqan and Professor Riaz. Why not we should hold the sessions which we have planned physical on Zoom and on Saturday? This is a food for thought, and please.
Sir, actually, there are a lot of internet problems. Right now, I'm sitting in a place, and I'm feeling very difficult. I couldn't listen your talk completely, and so it's very difficult to digest the things online. So if we have the opportunity to have the physical activity, then I think that we should go for that.
Okay.
So we'll be hosting the physical activity live on YouTube.
Furqan, क्या कह रहे हैं आप?
सर मैं कह रहा हूँ कि जो हमारा लाइव सेशन होगा और डॉक्यूमेंट्स को लाइव हम कर लेंगे YouTube पे.
हाँ, इंशाल्लाह लाइव करेंगे, इंशाल्लाह. So, any other question?
Sir, there was a question about clinical audit. So, Dr.
Let me. In next 1 to 2 minutes, I'll tell you the difference between audit and research. In very simple words, you know, I am in the habit of making things simple so that people can understand. The difference between research and audit is that research people set the bar. That means they set a standard. That, for example, they say that for this very medicine, this very disease, this much dose should be given. This is the research finding, and it comes into practice, and it becomes a guideline. It is evidence, and people start implementing it and practicing it. After a few years, some clinicians feel that this particular dose of this particular medicine is not working appropriately as it was originally planned. Now, instead of doing another research, they will do the audit. They will collect the data, maybe retrospectively, maybe prospectively, and see whether the particular dose of the disease is working or not. And is there any problem in compliance, any problem in diagnostic tests, any problem in changes in the environments or something. So in simple words, the research sets the bar, sets the standard, and audit measures the practice against that particular standard. ठीक है? Research वो standard बनाता है और audit वो standard के against practice को measure करते हैं. And clinical audit is a very important part of research, especially in countries like United Kingdom, where all the facilities are sponsored by government by National Health Service, NHS. They are very particular about doing periodic audits, that to ensure that their resources are not wasted, their tests are not irrationally advised, the medicine are not given irrationally. So they want to see a few clinical audits in your CV. I hope I have answered the question. Professor Az, you want to say something?
जी सर, मैं कह रहा था कि अगर सारे वीडियोस ऑन कर ले तो हम एक बना सकते हैं और हमारा एक रिकॉर्ड भी होगा. इज इट पॉसिबल?
नहीं, मैंने रिकॉर्डिंग कर रहा हूँ. रिकॉर्डिंग इज ऑन.
या जो एटलीस्ट जो ऑन कर सकते हैं.
नहीं, रिकॉर्डिंग इज ऑन एंड
नहीं, वो फोटो होता है ना जो आपके.
अच्छा, फोटो. हाँ, अपनी वीडियो ऑन करें जी सारे, ताकि हम रिकॉर्ड कर सकें. आई डोंट नो द गर्ल्स विल बी डूइंग इट और नॉट.
जो करना चाहे,
जो करना
चाहे.
वैसे मैंने स्क्रीनशॉट्स तो ले लिए हैं, क्योंकि इस वक्त कोई 50 के करीब थे पार्टिसिपेंट, तो आई हैव टेकन द स्क्रीनशॉट्स.
सही है, ठीक है.
And I've recorded also and share. I will probably upload it on the YouTube if you in the channel of MRC and share the link. The other option is if I could download the whole video and send it to Furqan, and whatever he wants to do with this video, he can do. Or Inshara or Tajalli, they will handle the videos. I can give this video on by USB also to these students. So if there are no other comments or questions, we can sign it off and say goodbye.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, and Allah Hafiz. May Allah bless you all. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your participation.
Okay, sir. Allah Hafiz. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Allah Hafiz.
And probably Dr. Furqan has already left. I will say thank you by WhatsApp to him.